What is good, everyone? Welcome to the first episode of the 99's Office Hockey Podcast. My name is Damien, and I'm here to talk everything hockey with you for the next few weeks. I'm finally proud to get this project started. It's been a few weeks now since I've been working on this podcast, and it's a pleasure for me to be kicking it off. I also need the NHL season to kick off, to be honest. We are 1 week away from training camp, and the regular season of the NHL is less than 1 month away. We are about there, and it's time to get our best predictions out there, and that's what we're doing today. For my first subject, I attempt to predict the top 10 NHL scorers for next season. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So we will start at the top of the list and then we'll go all the way down to number 10. And at first, I've got the Oilers, Conor, McDavid. Last year, the Edmonton Oilers started out pretty slow with Jay Woodcroft as their coach. And as soon as Woodcroft got fired, McDavid went nuclear. He had 121 points in 64 games, which is crazy, and he ended the season with 32 goals, 100 assists for 132 points. I have him scoring 49 goals and 92 assists for the next season. He scored 64 goals in 22-23, and then it dropped in half last season. He scored 32. So I think it will go up, especially with his shooting percentage that was way lower than his standard last year. And the Oilers also added Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson to bolster their forward core, and I think it will really help on the power play. And the Oilers have their best chance to win the Cup pretty much since the Gretzky era. So I think it's time for McDavid to go nuclear, and he will do his job as the best player in the world. And at second, I've got McDavid's teammate Leon Draisaitl. I think that the Skinner and Arvidsson additions will be even more important to Leon Draisaitl, just because he won't be obligated to play with some depth pieces as his wingers. He often played with Evander Kane and Dylan Holloway, who are, don't get me wrong, they are good players, but they're not quite second liners, and especially for a guy with so much talent, like Draisaitl, I think it's going to be sizable additions. Draisaitl also had a pretty down year based to his standard last year, 106 points. I think he can score more goals than 41, which is what he scored last year. I'd have him around 53 goals, adding 76 assists to that, rounding out to 129 points. I think Skinner and Arvidsson can bring 30 goals to the table, maybe also 40 assists for 70 points for each. So this line is going to be dangerous for the Oilers, and Draisaitl is going to use it to his best. And at third, I've got Nathan McKinnon from the Colorado Avalanche. He had an outrageous season last year, scoring 51 goals on top of 89 assists for 140 points, which was like 29 points above his last point total. I think it was 111. So McKinnon has had an obviously a career year. Like, it was impressive how much he was able to score. I don't think this is quite a sustainable rhythm for a guy like McKinnon, especially based on the uncertainty that is around the Avalanche team. Will Gabe Landeskog be able to come back? And if so, what kind of impact will he have? And what's going to happen with Valeri Nichushkin? Is he going to come back in full form? Will he stay with the Avalanche? We're not sure, but still, Colorado should remain a top team, even though their depth is not quite that. They have the star power, like McKinnon is going to be around Rantanen and Cale Makar, so I'd still have him scoring like 43 goals on top of 80 assists for a 123-point season, which is still amazing. I just don't think he's going to be able to maintain the rhythm he had last year. And in fourth position, I have from the Tampa Bay Lightning, Nikita Kucherov. And a bit like Nathan McKinnon, he had a career year last season, scoring 44 goals, 100 assists for 144 points. He was the best scorer in the NHL, but on top of Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid. The only thing that makes me say Kucherov should go a bit lower is that Tampa Bay had an outrageous power play. I think they were like 28.9%, which was 3% above the second team. So I don't think it's a really sustainable power play, especially with Steven Stamkos now gone to Nashville. And Kucherov is going to play with point, and now they added Jake Gensel. So Kucherov might not score 144 points yet again, but I have him in the 122 range, maybe like 42 goals and 80 assists. So Nikita Kucherov still stands at number 4. And in 5th position, I've got David Pastrnak from the Boston Bruins. You just can't say the Bruins didn't improve on paper last offseason, should I say. They added Nikita Zadorov on the back end, which is a pretty big addition. But they got what they needed, which was a first-line center. They acquired Elias Lindholm. And I think it's going to have a pretty important impact on Pastrnak Productions to not play with Pavel Zacha every night. They're going to complete a trio with Marchand, Lindholm, and David Pastrnak. So I think this line is going to be really, really good. Lindholm is a great passer, and I think Pastrnak will score a bit more goals than he did last year. He had 47, and the year before he had 61 on that historic Bruins team. I think he's going to get somewhere in the middle, like 56, and had 58 assists on top of that for 114 points. So big year coming up for the Bruins, and Pastrnak is going to be a huge part of it. And in 6th position, I've got from the Toronto Maple Leafs, Auston Matthews. The Leafs didn't make any big changes for their forward core last season, so I think Matthews is going to stay in the same range of points if he keeps playing with Mitch Marner, as he so often did these past few years. But I think the goals-assist balance is going to be a bit closer than last year. Matthews had 69 goals, crazy numbers, on top of 38 assists for a total of 107 points. We've seen Matthews get a bit more assists than that in previous years, like in 22-23 he had 45, the year before 46, and as the new Leafs captain, I think he's going to get quite a lot. So I'd have him scoring 60 goals, as he is still the best sniper in the NHL by far, and I'd have him adding 48 assists for 108 points, which is good for the 6th place on my ranking. And in 7th position, I might have the first controversial pick on my list. I've got Kirill Kaprizov from the Minnesota Wild. Last year, the Wild didn't have a great start to the season, especially in the few first months. They ended with 87 points, which was okay, but kind of far from the playoffs. And Kirill also had a really slow start. After 30 games, he wasn't that close to his usual point per game and above range. But I think in January, he really picked it up. Like in 46 games at the end of the season, he got 71 points. That's a crazy production. And he ended the year with 96 points in 75 games. And if he keeps playing with Matthew Boldy and Joel Eriksson, I don't see why he would really slow down. This line has been so efficient for the Wild. So I'd have Kirill Kaprizov scoring 50 goals on top of 55 assists for a 105-point season, which is around the range he put up in 21-22, where he was a top 6-7 player in the NHL, and I have him in this range again. And in 8th position, I've got from the New York Rangers, Artemi Panarin, who also had a career year last season, scoring 49 goals, 71 assists for 120 points. The thing with the New York Rangers is I think some teams got better in the offseason. The Edmonton Oilers are clearly one of them. The Boston Bruins also might be one of them. And the Dallas Stars still remain an elite team. So I don't know if the New York Rangers will be able to win the President's Trophy yet again. And age is kind of getting up to Artemi Panarin. He's going to turn 33 next October. So these two elements make me think that Panarin might have a bit of a slowdown in his production, especially because he had 49 goals last year. He's a great shooter, don't get me wrong, but he's not quite that 50-goal scorer. We really didn't see that in the previous seasons, and his career average doesn't show that either. He ripped every puck he could at the net, just maybe not a 49 goal scorer. So I'd have him scoring 38 goals on top of 65 assists for 103 points, which is still an elite production, just not quite the 120 that he scored last year. So Panarin is good for the 8th place on my ranking. And in 9th position, I've got from the Colorado Avalanche, Mikko Rantanen. And Rantanen is in a pretty interesting spot because he plays with Nathan McKinnon, but I predicted a pretty sizable slowdown for McKinnon this year. And even though Mikko Rantanen is on a contract here, he's going to be looking to score as many goals, as many points as he can to get that bag come the 2025 summer. There's also uncertainty about the Landeskog and the Shushkin affairs, as I was saying earlier. So I think Mikko Rantanen is going to stay in the same range of points based on these positive, like his contract here, and his negative elements like Landeskog, the Shushkin, and the fact that McKinnon might have a bit of a slowdown. So I'd have Rantanen around 47 goals on top of 56 assists, tied with Artemi Panarin for 103 points, which is good for the 9th position on my ranking. And to complete the top 10, I've got from the New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes started out pretty much as the best player in the NHL last October. I think he had 18 points in 7 games, which is crazy. And then the New Jersey Devils had their breakdown. They absolutely disappointed everyone's prediction last year, and Jack Hughes also got hurt. So he ended the season with 74 points in 62 games, which is really good. But my prediction is based mostly on his 22-23 season, where he had 99 points in 78 games. There was only a little injury to stop him from that 100-point mark, and I think he's breaking it this year. The Devils are going to be back onto the scene, probably one of the best teams in the NHL after they added Brett Pesce, Jacob Markstrom, and now Dougie Hamilton might be back in full form. So I have Jack Hughes scoring 41 goals on top of 61 assists for 102 points. So that rounds out the top 10. So here's the full list. I've got Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov, David Pastrnak, Auston Matthews, Kirill Kaprizov, Artemi Panarin, Mikko Rantanen, and Jack Hughes. I also want to give honorable mentions to Mitch Marner, Matthew Tkachuk, and Jason Robertson, who I think are all going to be really close to the 100-point mark, probably around 95. So that rounds out my top 10 predictions for the best scorers in the NHL for next season. For our next stop, we're going to look at 10 guys who could be breakout candidates for their team in 24-25. So without further ado, let's get into it. My first breakout candidate for the next NHL season is Yaroslav Askarov, the newest San Jose Sharks goaltender. He was traded to San Jose from the Nashville Predators a few weeks ago, and in pretty weird fashion. I'll tell you why in just a second. Askarov was drafted 11th overall in 2020 by the Nashville Predators and was considered a top goalie prospect in the NHL since then. Nashville, of course, have elite goaltender Juuse Saros, but last season there were a lot of trade rumors about Saros because everyone thought that Askarov was ready to get some playing time. But this offseason, Nashville decided to go the other way and to sign Saros to a big contract extension on top of adding backup goalie Scott Wedgwood and even another AHL caliber goalie in Matthew Murray. So Askarov was set to play another AHL season after having 2 dominant ones before, with a .911 save percentage for both of those seasons. So Askarov decided to ask for a trade, and boy, did he get it. He's now the new San Jose Sharks starter at 22 or 23 years old. I'm not sure about this one, but he will have some playing time. And even though San Jose is not as good of a team as the Nashville Predators, he will finally get some playing time. And if he reaches his potential, the San Jose Sharks are going to be dangerous in a few years with Max Celebrini, Will Smith, William Eklund, Sam Dickinson, just to mention a few. So I have Askarov as a potential breakout candidate for next season. My second breakout candidate is Alexander Holtz from the Vegas Golden Knights. Last season with the New Jersey Devils, Holtz got 28 points in a very limited role. He didn't have much of ice time, and he got traded to the Vegas Golden Knights this offseason. He is still 22, was drafted 7th overall in 2020, so he has a lot of potential. And with all of Vegas' losses in their forward core, with Stephenson gone to Seattle, Mantha gone to Calgary, Carter went the other way in the New Jersey trade, the Wings are looking pretty shaky, and a guy that could take advantage of that is for sure Alexander Holtz, who is known for his scoring touch and might even get some power play time with that Vegas team. So I think he is a clear breakout candidate for this season. It is make or break season for him though. He changed scenery. Vegas is a really good team. If he can't find his rhythm there, I think his NHL stay is about over. But I have true confidence in Alexander Holtz. I think he could reach the 40-point mark this season with Vegas. My third breakout candidate is Adam Boqvist, who was bought out by the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Florida Panthers signed him to a league minimum contract this offseason. It's a complete change of scenery to go from a really rough team in Columbus to a Stanley Cup winning team in the Florida Panthers, who lost a couple key pieces defensively, especially Brendan Montour, who is gone to the Seattle Kraken. And Adam Boqvist is ready to play an important role on a really good team. He was drafted 8th overall in 2018 by the Chicago Blackhawks, was a key piece in the Seth Jones trade in 2021, but he never really panned out for the Columbus Blue Jackets because he was always injured and just really couldn't seem to find his game. He's now 24 years old, so it is a make or break season for him, especially in a contest like Florida. If he can't perform, I think his NHL stay is about over, but he will have a shot. Of course, Boqvist has some potential, especially offensively, and except Gustav Forsling, they don't really have someone to drive that power play. Aaron Ekblad just doesn't produce as much as he did in the past, and Boqvist could take his chance. We could see a 30-point season for Boqvist. I don't think it's out of this world. So Adam Boqvist is my third breakout candidate. My fourth breakout candidate is the Chicago Blackhawks defenseman Kevin Korchinski, who came in at a really early age in the NHL last season. He came in at only 19, while nobody really saw him make that jump. He wasn't expected to do so, and still he played the full season in Chicago. Chicago was a pretty rough team, and Korchinski had the season to go with it. He had 15 points while being known for his offensive ability, so nothing too crazy, but it can only go better for now with the skilled forwards that Chicago signed, like Bertuzzi, Teravainen to play alongside Bedard, and they also got many leadership pieces like Pat Maroon, Craig Smith, Alec Martinez, TJ Brody. These guys can only help with Korchinski development, and I think he's going to take advantage of that, especially if he gets power play time. I think he might get some PP2 time. Seth Jones will drive the first unit, but I think Kevin Korchinski will be the guy to drive that second power play, and it's not out of this world that we can see him score 30 points just like Adam Boqvist. So I have Kevin Korchinski as a potential breakout candidate. My fifth breakout candidate is a player from the Washington Capitals. It is Hendrix Lapierre, and I think he had a pretty interesting rookie season last year, getting 22 points in 51 games with the Capitals. And with his good play, he's pretty much guaranteed a roster spot right now. He's set to be Washington's third-line center behind Lindstrom and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And this offseason, Washington actually made surprising moves. Everyone thought they were going for the retool, and they went the other way. They decided to acquire Andrew Mangiapane, Jacob Chikrin. They signed Matt Roy to a contract. They also got goalie Logan Thompson for a trade. So they look like they want to be part of the playoffs yet again. And Lapierre could use all the talent that they added on that third line, maybe also getting some second power play minutes. I think Hendrik Lapierre could have an interesting season, maybe 35 to 40 points. That's enough of a breakout for me, especially on a middling team like Washington. They might make the playoffs, but I don't think they're in for the cup, at least just yet. And Lapierre could make a name for himself during the 24-25 season. My sixth breakout candidate is a player that I don't think everyone knows. It is Drew O'Connor from the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he got 33 points for the Pens last year, which is decent. And now Pittsburgh has a pretty rough situation on the wing. They've lost Riley Smith to the New York Rangers in a trade, and with Jake Gensel gone last trade deadline, the only option that could play top line minutes ahead of Drew O'Connor is maybe Michael Bunting, and either Drew O'Connor's plays with Sidney Crosby and Brian Rust, or with Evgeny Malkin and Rickard Rakell. Those are good players, and I think Drew O'Connor could use those players to upgrade his production, especially because he's got pretty decent hands and a pretty good shot as well. So I think O'Connor could have a 45-point season, especially if the Pittsburgh Penguins have a good season. They're a pretty wildcard team right now. We're not too sure where they're going. So I think it's time for Drew O'Connor, who is 26 years old, to make a name for himself with the Pens. My seventh breakout candidate is another player that was traded this offseason, and it is Ty Dellandrea from the San Jose Sharks. He was drafted 13 overall by the Dallas Stars in 2018, and he spent a couple seasons with them, his best season being in 22-23, where he had 28 points. This year, 9 points in 37 games, I believe. There wasn't really much of a spot for him with new acquisitions like Sam Steele, Craig Smith, and Matt Duchene. So he had to warm that bench at times, and the Dallas Stars got rid of him this offseason. They sent him off to San Jose, which is a complete change of scenery, let's be honest. And I think he's going to get some good playing time in San Jose, probably third line minutes, because San Jose's forward core is pretty rough. And I think it's time for him to put his name onto the scene. He is 23 or 24. If he was a 2018 draftee, he's probably 24 now. And it's time for Dellandrea to make a name for himself. I think on that third line, he could get around 35 to 45 points. We've seen him get 28 in Dallas in a really limited fourth line role. So yeah, I think Ty Dellandrea could be a decent player for the SJ Sharks this year. My eighth breakout candidate is a player from the Boston Bruins, and it is Justin Brazeau. He came in really late last season for the Boston Bruins, playing only 19 games, but still, he got 5 goals, 2 assists for 7 points, and he played the majority of the postseason with the Boston Bruins as well. He is a 6'5" beast, and we saw him drive the net a couple times, getting those rebounds in front. He scored a couple goals that way, and I think he could get some fourth line minutes this year, maybe third lines, if some players get injured in the B. And I think the combination of his size and his will to drive the net could get him 15 goals. I don't think it's out of this world, and he could add a couple assists on top of that for a 25 to 30 point season in Boston. My ninth breakout candidate is a player from the New Jersey Devils, and his name is Simon Nemec. He was drafted second overall in the 2022 NHL draft, and he made his debut last year with the Devils. Everyone knows that New Jersey had a pretty rough season last year. They disappointed everyone along the way, but while their defense was crumbling down, Nemec played a big role, and he got pretty solid defensive metrics for a rookie that came in a so disappointing team. And he's going to play his second season this year. He's going to be behind Dougie Hamilton and Brett Pesce on the right side of the defense. So I think he's going to be able to develop without pressure. He's going to play on that third pairing, keeps getting better defensively, and we could see him get a 30-point season. I don't think it's out of this world. He was drafted second overall for a reason by the Devils. We'll see, because I'm pretty sure he is injured right now, but Luke Hughes also is injured, so he might get a pretty big role at the start of the season. We'll see what Nemec can do. And the last breakout candidates on my list is the Colorado Avalanche backup goalie Justus Annunen. Annunen came in Colorado this year playing in 13 games, I believe. He got 8 wins, but what stood out to me was his .928 save percentage. That was one of the best in the league, and we all know who Colorado's starter is. It's Alexander Georgiev, who wasn't able to keep over 900 save percentage and under 3 goals against per game while playing on the 8th best team on the NHL. That's just not acceptable as a starter, and it's obviously Colorado's biggest weakness. So I don't think that it's out of this world that Annunen just comes in and takes Georgiev's spot. He might become the starter in Colorado if Georgiev can't deliver this year. Annunen has been a top prospect goalie-wise these past few years, and I think he could steal Georgiev's spot. That's not out of this world, and that's why Annunen comes in at number 10 on my breakout candidates potential list. So let's recap my top 10 breakout candidates for this season. At first, I had Yaroslav Askarov, followed up by Alexander Holtz, Adam Boqvist, Kevin Korchinski, Hendrix Lapierre, Drew O'Connor, Ty Dellandrea, Justin Brazeau, Simon Nemec, and Justus Annunen. Those were the 10 guys that I think have the most potential to break out this year, but obviously there's so many names that can be thrown out there. So if you have a player that I might have not talked about, please make sure to leave a comment and to let me know who that player is. I'll make sure to answer if I think it can be a decent breakout candidate as well. So guys, that's going to be all for me today in the first episode of the 99's Office Hockey Podcast. I'm really proud to have done this episode with you, and it's been a pleasure to do so. So I'll see you guys soon in the next episode. Make sure to leave a comment, a like if you enjoyed the content, and you might also want to subscribe to make sure you don't miss the next episode. So I see you guys soon. Have a good one.